Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. For years, I lived in the comfortable lie of my marriage to Sarah. We built it all, the house, the shared life, our daughter, Lily. I believed we were partners, moving forward together. But looking back now, the signs were always there. Tiny fractures I chose to ignore. It wasn't a sudden explosion, but a slow, creeping decay. Like a crack in a foundation widening day by day until the whole structure felt unstable. The first shift was subtle. Sarah, a lawyer, started working late. Long nights, urgent deadlines, client crises, the usual story. I bought it. Why wouldn't I? I was consumed by my own startup, pouring everything into building my software company. We were both busy, chasing success. Then came the trips. Conferences, overnight meetings, all essential for her career. She said. I accepted it. I wanted to. Sarah had stuck by me through the lean years when my business was just a dream and money was tight. When things finally took off and we were comfortable, I figured she deserved some perks, some freedom. But her absences grew. It wasn't just work anymore. She was pulling away emotionally. Our conversations became brief, strained. If I asked about her day, she'd dismiss me, sometimes with an eye roll that felt like a physical blow. My simple curiosity seemed to annoy her. Then David Miller entered the picture. Her new boss. I met him at one of her work functions. He had that easy charm, filling the room with his presence. I watched Sarah introduce us. She practically glowed, laughing a little too loud at his jokes, leaning in a little too close when they spoke. A knot tightened in my stomach, but I pushed it down. Just paranoia, I told myself. Husbands get weird like that, right? But the unease lingered. In the following months, David was everywhere in her conversation. How brilliant he was, how driven, how he understood the demands of her job. It was David this, David that. The more she praised him, the less she seemed to see me. I tried to talk to her about it once. I suggested maybe she was working too much, that things at home felt neglected. She lashed out, accusing me of being controlling, insecure. Insecure. I remember repeating, the word tasting bitter. You're barely here, Sarah. Forgive me for noticing. She stormed out, didn't come back until after midnight. No explanation, no apology, just a chilling silence. That was the moment I felt the real shift. It was as if she'd already made a decision, and I was just the last one to be told. Part of me still clung to hope, hoping it was just a rough patch we could navigate. Instead, the distance widened. She started spending money recklessly. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, spa weekends. She even hired a live-in nanny for Lily, our daughter, despite always saying how much she loved being a mom. When I asked where she was going, the defensiveness flared. Do I need your permission now? She'd snap. No, she didn't. But maybe she should have. Because the more I watched, the clearer it became. Sarah wasn't just busy or distant. She was hiding something. The late nights, the sudden trips, the phone she guarded like a secret weapon. It all added up to a heavy, suffocating feeling of dread. But the thing that finally broke me wasn't any of that. It was the way she looked at me, like I was an obstacle, something she had to tolerate until she no longer had to. One night, she came home late again. Her makeup was flawless, her hair perfectly styled, and there was a faint, alien scent of men's cologne clinging to her. I asked her where she'd been. Client dinner, she said, walking past me before I could form another word. That was it. The benefit of the doubt was gone. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I checked her phone. I hated myself for doing it, the invasiveness felt wrong, but the signs were screaming at me. What I found wasn't just suspicious. It was a hammer blow. Text messages with David Miller. Not work-related chatter. Long, intimate conversations. References to nights spent together, private jokes, words no married woman should exchange with another man. One message leaped off the screen. Can't wait until we don't have to sneak around anymore. Soon, soon, soon. Soon, soon, soon. That phrase lodged in my brain. This wasn't just a careless affair. This felt planned. I printed the messages and retreated to my office, trying to piece together the fragments of my shattered reality. My thoughts spiraled into the darkest corners. Was she planning to leave me? Was she setting me up for divorce? For financial ruin? I wasn't going to wait around to find out. Over the next few days, I dug deeper. Credit card statements, emails, the household budget she'd long since ignored. The numbers painted a clear picture of secret trips, expensive hotels, jewelry I'd never seen. Then, tucked away in the back of her desk drawer, I found another folder. Inside, legal documents, divorce papers, drafted, signed, notarized, and dated, almost 8 years ago. I stared at them, the paper cool in my hands, time blurring. Why keep these? Was this her long-term strategy? A safety net in case her other plans failed? I took the folder to my lawyer, Attorney John. He reviewed them, a slow grin spreading across his face. "These are still valid," he said. "A few steps, and they could be finalized." It hit me then. Sarah thought she was orchestrating everything, but she'd made a colossal mistake. She'd left me the exact weapon I needed to turn the tables. But I still didn't have the whole story. I knew about the cheating, the hidden life. What I didn't know was just how far she was willing to go, or what her true endgame was. I was still trying to connect the dots when the news broke. David Miller was dead, shot and killed by his wife, Lisa. The details emerged quickly. Lisa had found him packing bags, preparing to leave her. There was a fight, brutal and desperate, and it ended with him dead on their living room floor. It was all over the news, a sensational tragedy. But Sarah barely reacted. I watched her that night, scrolling through her phone on the couch, completely detached. No tears, no shock, just a cold, blank expression. It didn't seem to touch her at all. That's when the truth clicked into place. She already knew. She tried to play it off when I asked, saying it was tragic, that Lisa must have just snapped. But her face, the subtle tension around her eyes, gave her away. She wasn't upset about David's death. She was terrified. And for the first time I saw it clearly. She wasn't just hiding an affair. She was hiding a plan that had just exploded in her face. A few weeks later, Lisa showed up at my office. I hadn't seen her since the trial. She looked weathered, hardened, like someone who had walked through fire and wasn't trying to hide the scars anymore. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice steady, but carrying the weight of exhaustion. I nodded, closed the door. Whatever she had to say, I knew it wouldn't be easy. She didn't waste time. "I know about Sarah," she said. "I know about the affair, but there's more you don't know." I just stared at her, rooted to my chair. Part of me wanted to tell her to leave, to just walk away from this nightmare. But I couldn't. I needed answers. She placed a folder on my desk. "Robert wasn't just cheating on me. He was planning to leave me. With your wife." I opened the folder. Photos. Sarah and David. Together. Hotels, dinners, airports. They were planning to disappear. "David told me everything the night I shot him," Lisa said, her gaze unwavering. "He said Sarah was pregnant. That they were starting over. Building a new life without us." I couldn't speak, my hands trembling as I flipped through the pictures. "He thought the baby was his," Lisa continued, leaning forward slightly. "But it wasn't. David was sterile. I knew for years. I never told him. He died believing he finally had a child." The air left the room. "Lily, my daughter." I hadn't even realized I was holding my breath until Lisa pushed another envelope across the desk. "DNA test results," she said. "I had them run while I was in prison. Lily's yours, not his." Everything crashed down on me. Sarah hadn't just cheated. She'd built her entire life, her entire escape plan, on a foundation of lies. She convinced David the baby was his, used that lie to bind him to her. And when Lisa's desperation ended his life, Sarah's elaborate scheme crumbled. But the most sickening part? Sarah hadn't seemed fazed by David's death. She didn't mourn him. She didn't cry. She just moved on, already calculating her next move. Lisa gave me everything she had. Letters, emails, more photos. Then she stood to leave. "Don't let her get away with it," she said, her voice hard. "Make her pay for what she did." And then she was gone. I sat there for hours, surrounded by the evidence. I had everything I needed to dismantle Sarah's lies, piece by agonizing piece. But I wasn't just going to take her down. I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. Staring at the pile of papers and photos Lisa had left, Sarah's betrayal, the fantasy life she tried to build, the truth about Lily's parentage, I felt something cold solidify inside me. The anger wasn't a raging fire. It was sharp, precise, and focused. Sarah thought she was untouchable, that she'd covered every angle. She had no idea how wrong she was. The next morning, I called Attorney John. I laid out the entire story, the evidence spread across his desk. He listened, flipping through the files, a slow, almost excited grin spreading across his face. "These divorce papers," he said, holding up the dated documents, "are a gold mine." He explained they were still legally valid. Sarah must have prepared them years ago as a fallback, in case her relationship with David didn't pan out exactly as planned. The joke was on her. Attorney John moved fast. He got the papers filed and scheduled a court date. But he warned me, Sarah wouldn't just roll over. She was a fighter, albeit a deceitful one. While he handled the legal side, I focused on the real priority, Lily. I couldn't let Sarah use her as leverage, couldn't risk losing her in a protracted custody battle. I ordered a new DNA test, this time in my name, and paid to have it expedited. Meanwhile, I started systematically closing the doors Sarah thought she could just walk through. I froze joint accounts, canceled shared credit cards, transferred assets into my personal holdings. I wanted her blindsided, cut off from the resources she'd been using to fund her double life. I even tracked down the specific old car, that 1995 Volvo mentioned in her original divorce terms. Took 3 days of ridiculous negotiations, but I got it. I cleaned it up, re-registered it in her name and parked it in the garage. By the time the court papers were served, I was ready. Sarah had no idea the trap she'd walked into. She stormed into my office the next day, waving the papers like they were a live bomb. "What the hell is this?" she shrieked. I remained calm, calmer than I thought possible. "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "You wanted a divorce. Now you've got it." Her face went white for a split second before the rage took over. She screamed, threatened to ruin me, take everything I had, even accused me of setting her up. I just sat there, letting her burn herself out. Then I hit her with the detail she wasn't prepared for. "The car," I said, sliding the keys across the desk. "It's in the garage. Exactly what you asked for in the papers." She snatched the keys, a desperate lifeline, but the panic in her eyes was undeniable. She knew she'd lost control, and she hated it. But the real blow landed when I mentioned Lily. "Oh, and by the way," I added, my voice level, "custody's already in motion. I'm keeping her." That's when she snapped. She lunged across the desk at me, screaming, a sound that seemed to shake the walls. But I didn't flinch. She couldn't touch me. Not legally, not emotionally, not anymore. I called security to escort her out. As they led her away, she threw one last threat over her shoulder. "This isn't over." But it was. She just didn't know it yet. The DNA results from my own test came back 2 days later, confirming what Lisa had already told me. Lily was mine. I gave the final report to Attorney John, and he filed it immediately. All that was left was the courtroom. I was ready to finish what Sarah had started years ago. When the day of the hearing finally arrived, I walked into that courtroom ready for war. Sarah was already there, dressed sharply as always, but the veneer was cracking. Her hands fidgeted, her eyes darting nervously towards her lawyer, as if hoping he could make the reality disappear. Attorney John and I took our seats across from her. The room fell silent as the judge entered. Sarah's lawyer began, launching into an emotional plea. "Mrs. Stevens has been a devoted mother, prioritizing her daughter's well-being," he argued, painting me as a cold, career-obsessed husband weaponizing the divorce. I wanted to laugh. He spoke with such conviction, ignoring the mountain of evidence sitting on the table right in front of him. But I let him talk, let him build his fragile case of the wronged wife and loving mother cast aside. Then it was our turn. Attorney John wasted no time. He started with the DNA results, handing them directly to the judge before Sarah's lawyer could even formulate an objection. The judge held up a hand, signaling silence, and read through the documents. "Mr. Stevens," he said, looking up, "these results confirm that you are the biological father of Lily Stevens. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," I replied. Sarah's lawyer scrambled, attempting to pivot. "Your Honor, biological ties are only one factor. Mrs. Stevens has been Lily's primary caregiver." Attorney John cut him off, sliding another stack of documents across the table. "These are records of Mrs. Stevens's financial transactions," he stated calmly. "Extravagant spending, hotel stays, plane tickets, none of which involved her daughter. In fact, we also have evidence showing Mrs. Stevens frequently left Lily in the care of a hired nanny, while she pursued an extramarital affair with her employer, David Miller." Sarah flinched visibly at David's name. The judge noticed. "Is this true, Mrs. Stevens?" he asked. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently, but Sarah pushed his hand away. She stood, her voice trembling but still trying to project defiance. "Yes, it's true. But that doesn't change the fact that I love my daughter. I'm the only one who truly understands her." Attorney John didn't even need to respond. The judge's expression made it clear he wasn't convinced. Then Sarah made her final, catastrophic mistake. She turned to me, right there in the middle of the courtroom, her eyes blazing with a desperate fury. "You'll never be the father she needs," she spat. "She's David's daughter, not yours." The room went dead silent. Even her own lawyer buried his face in his hands. Attorney John calmly slid the DNA results back across the table. "These documents prove otherwise," he said simply. The judge leaned forward, his voice cold and measured. "Mrs. Stevens, are you saying you've been misleading this court about the paternity of your child?" Sarah froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The judge straightened his papers. "Based on the evidence presented," he stated, his voice decisive, "custody will be awarded to Mr. Stevens. Mrs. Stevens will retain limited visitation rights as outlined in the agreement." Sarah crumpled back into her chair, tears streaming down her face. Her lawyer tried to comfort her, but she shoved his hand away. She wasn't crying from sadness. She was crying because she had lost. After the ruling, Sarah followed me into the hallway. The anger was gone, replaced by a raw, desperate pleading. You can't take her from me, she whispered. Please, she's all I have left. For a second, a flicker of pity touched me. Almost. But then I remembered every lie, every manipulation, every time she had looked through me as if I was nothing. She's not yours to lose, I said, my voice quiet but firm. She's my daughter. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there alone. Attorney John caught up to me outside, clapping me on the back. You did it, he said, but it didn't feel like a victory. Not yet. My job now was to ensure Lily never felt the fallout from this mess. I wouldn't fail her. Walking out of that courthouse should have felt like the end, a chapter closed. But it wasn't. Sarah didn't disappear quietly. For the first few weeks, she was a constant shadow: texts, calls, showing up at the house unannounced. She cycled through tactics, from guilt trips to threats, trying to regain control. None of it worked. She'd lost her leverage. Her visits with Lily were tense initially. Sarah still played the part, trying to buy Lily's affection with lavish gifts and impossible promises. But kids are smarter than we often think. Lily saw through it. She'd come home confused, asking why her mom seemed so different, so sad or angry. I kept my answers honest but simple. Your mom is figuring some things out, I'd say. But no matter what happens, I'm here for you. It was enough for Lily, for a while. Sarah couldn't sustain the act. The gift stopped. The excuses started: too busy, too tired, too far away. Visits became phone calls, then calls became texts, and eventually nothing. I braced myself for Lily's heartbreak when her mother stopped showing up. But instead, it was like a weight lifted from her small shoulders. She stopped waiting by the door, stopped asking questions, and slowly, she started to truly relax, to just be a kid again. Around the same time, Lisa and I grew closer. She'd stayed in touch after the trial, a strange kinship born from shared betrayal. She helped me navigate the emotional debris, kept me grounded. What started as a supportive friendship slowly deepened into something more. It wasn't forced or rushed. It felt natural, earned. We both understood the pain of being lied to, of losing everything and having to rebuild from the ground up. And when Lily, without prompting, started calling Lisa Mom, I knew we weren't the only ones who felt this was right. A year later, Lisa moved in. Lily was ecstatic, probably more excited than I was. For the first time in what felt like forever, the house felt alive, felt like a home. We fell into a rhythm, shared meals, laughter, building our own traditions. Then came the biggest surprise of all. Lisa was pregnant. Processing it took time. After everything, the idea of starting over, of bringing another life into this world, felt monumental. But it also felt profoundly right. When we told Lily, her face lit up like Christmas morning. Our baby boy arrived just before the holidays. Watching Lily hold her little brother for the first time, her face soft with wonder, made every single painful step worth it. She looked up at me, her eyes shining, and said, I'm going to take care of him, just like you take care of me. Sarah tried to re-enter our lives once after that. She showed up at the door, looking worn and desperate. She said she wanted to fix things with Lily, but it was too late. The damage was irreparable. I didn't yell, didn't slam the door. I just told her the simple truth. Lily's happy now, I said, and I'm not letting anyone mess that up. She left without a word. That was the last time I saw her. These days, life feels different, quieter, better. I eventually sold my company for far more than I ever expected. But the money feels secondary now. What truly matters is coming home to Lisa and the kids, sitting down for dinner, knowing that this life, this time, is real. No lies, no secrets, just us. And Sarah? I rarely think of her. She built her life on a foundation of deceit and watched it crumble. I built mine back up, stronger, truer. And I'm not looking back. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.